It's a good morning indeed. It's 6 a.m. Central African time. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for choosing to wake up with us here on Eswatini TV's Kusile Breakfast Show, our morning live edition of this Tuesday. It's a Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
What's happening?
You want to go back?
I do not want to go back, but I do not know why I'm all over the place. But a very good morning indeed. It's a Wednesday morning. You know what, Masombuga, first and foremost, good morning to you. How do you do?
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah. Very sleepy, I see.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm pondering on a lot of things.
All right.
On my way to work. I'm always inspired by the people that I see jogging in the mornings. Quite a lot of them in Babani. And
I envy them because I wanted to join them. It's just that I have to be here.
the thing is, these people are consistent. They do it in winter, which is the most daunting time, and they're doing it in summer every day, consistently, the different cohorts. And for me, it's always a reminder and a motivation that no one is going to build muscle for you, no one is going to eat healthy for you, no one is going to make all the right decisions for you, especially when it comes to, taking care of your body and going to the gym. And I take it as the ultimate sign of self-respect. And these people, every day, every morning, it's really commendable, and it motivates me.
I saw somewhere it was written, you can't buy muscle. You can only build.
100%.
I'm like, oh, okay, that's very good.
Discipline as well. You can really not, because some people are not really training to build muscle, so to speak. Some of them just want cardiovascular health. And it's mostly these people that we see in the morning. So early in the morning, in the wee hours, some people are complaining about waking up early. Some are already hitting the ground running, doing whatever it is that they're doing, including us. We are here making sure that you get the best of what is happening in the kingdom of Eswatini. Well, today, the world of work and movement is our conversation at 7:30. With unemployment still biting, more and more Eswatini are looking beyond our borders for opportunities. But we want to understand how safe is their journey and how tightly is it being monitored. The Acting Labour Commissioner, Kingdom Mamba, is going to join us virtually to unpack the country's labour migration policy, the rise of private recruitment agencies, as well as the balance between exporting skills as well as safeguarding our own workforce. That conversation is next at 7:30 with Kingdom Mamba, the Acting Labour Commissioner. You do not want to miss it, especially while everything is happening around the world. We see people looking for greener pastures.
And just yesterday, the minister was in conversation with the entities involved when as far as this issue of triangular employment. I think there's an employment bill that is being tabled in Parliament to try and check what is actually happening, because we heard that there is triangular employment where recruiters now give certain companies employees and then they're exploited in that regard. And speaking of more news in the country of Eswatini. In fact, let's begin with this one of interest to me, and I suppose it's of interest to the world as well. The country of Malawi yesterday headed to the polls actually to vote, and 7.5 million people voted. 60% of them, the research says, it was people that were under the age of 35, and it shows that the young people are eager to see change. And the incumbent president, Lazarus Chikwera, was part of the cohort that was battling to go back to office. And Mutharika, who is also the opponent, is also hoping to be voted into office this time around. And Temba Masugu, who's heading the SADC Observatory mission there, says the Malawi elections was peaceful. And coming back again to this story, the Deputy Prime Minister is in Ghana to attend the funeral of the Asante Kingdom Queen, who sadly passed on at the age of 98.
Indeed, I think the Deputy Prime Minister did share on she was leaving that as they go there, she's at the age of 98. God had really blessed her with a really long life, and therefore September ukuthi umsebenzi utawuqhubeka kahle basasathunywe ngemakhosi. It's 5 minutes after 6. We have our paper run. We want to look at the top stories this morning making headlines across our print newspapers.
Making headlines in the Eswatini Observer today. We remember the story of the RDF looting. The MP says, name, shame the culprits. The MPs challenged the Minister for Tingundla, the Honourable Skumbuzo Dlamini. They say legislators blame Tingundla Minister of the blanket accusation and call for proof and accountability. Meanwhile, Tingundla claim MPs want to be alerted when RDF projects are approved. And public is hoping for free and fair army recruitment. Another one, there is self-proclaimed commander gets charge of high treason. And there's good news for those in the hospitality industry, as Hilton Hotels set to expand in Eswatini in Africa as well.
Look at the back end of this publication. This is the Eswatini Observer Sports. Carry the flag beyond borders, pride, discipline and victory. That is NATCOM urging players to return home triumphant. That is the NATCOM speaking on, rather reminding Royal Leopard that they carry the hopes of the entire nation as they head into their CAF Confederation Cup clash. And then on other stories, indigenous Eswatini cricketers have been honored. The Eswatini Cricket Association has shone the spotlight on local talent, honoring 5 indigenous Eswatini who are part of the current national team. On the last story, in Singizini, Hotspurs promises victory in Botswana. They are the current Premier League champions, and they are on the road today as they begin their CAF Champions League campaign with a tricky away assignment in Francistown, Botswana.
And moving on into our publication here, this is the Times of Eswatini. Actually, it's the Eswatini Daily News. The stories that we have there on the Eswatini Daily News, we have the Eswatini in the Malawi 2025 elections. The Eswatini-led SADC observers brave heat to oversee the historic polls. And the party moves to stop double appointments in parastatals and SOE boards. And 851 million SPAMP MOU is set to transform 19,000 farmers sealed.
Yeah, we look at the leading sports headlines on the Daily News. Birds Pty Ltd faction invades Sigwaqa House. The Mbabane Swallows ownership wrangle takes a new twist as faction stormed Sigwaqa House on Tuesday, demanding answers from the Football Association and Premier League of Eswatini. In other stories, Lindo in Confederation Cup assignment, while Cardoso wants to see a better start against the Gallants.
Now, next publication now, the Times of Eswatini, with me in here. Right, it would seem like we're not in access to that one. But then those are the news that are making headlines, Sfiso, in our publications here at Kusile Breakfast Show. And we hope that we are keeping you informed and keeping you abreast with what is actually happening in the Kingdom of Eswatini. And we have both news in both languages, that's Swati and English, coming up next, right after the break.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.sz. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Sikhathe manje ingamashumi noma ke ilishumi ishayile insimbi yesithupha eksena sikuvuzele ngwane lomuhle sikwamukele tinzambeni tetfula umsakatho thome lamba phambili Eswatini TV sibuka samaswati asikene kito tinzamba kuthe ke itolo ekseni sive sasemalawi savukela ke likhethweni kanti ke ukuthi ngalothunywe ingwenyama kuyobuka ke kuchubeka kwalolu khetho umhlonishwa Themba Masuku uthe ke konke kucale kahle njengoba ke bekuhleliwe kubebete ke dihibe letitsite.
Umhlonishwa Themba Masuku luthunywe ukuthi ahamba yawohola libandla lakaSADC lelibuka ke kuchubeka kwelikhetho eveni leMalawi uthi lelikhetho licale kahle langeni lalomuhla njengoba tigitsigitsi tebantu baseMalawi tivukile tavukela ke tikhungweni lapho bekuvotelwa khona. Masuku uthunywe ingwenyama inkosi iMswati wesithathu esigabeni sayo ingwenyama sekungena ke ihhovisi lasihlalo weliphiko lelibukete kuphepha kaSADC iSADC Troika. Masuku bekathe asingethwe kumabhalane waSADC umhlonishwa Elias Makhosi.
Lasithunywe khona ingwenyama vele kusuke elithuli sivuke ekuseni ukuthi ekuhlabo 6 bese silela kuvotwa khona alishize imhlolo yamangala liyagagabula kepha-ke lobuhle ukuthi lesive lesi siyasibona siphumile kude nebhilitisana kude nokuthi nje uyabona ukuthi lona waphathi yini waphathi yiphi bahleli ndzawonye lesive lesi sitimisele kulo msebenzi lesithunywe kuwo.
Masuku uthi lokunye lokhu bajabulisile balibandla ukuthi abantu labasha baphume ngetinombolo tabo kulolu khetho ayitekwake indzaba yeluthango laseMalawi.
Hayi nje bomakefela nalabo makotana nabo bantfanyana amantombazana nasefikile kulesigaba alangaphandle avota kusho kona ukuthi lapha lelive litawushiya kulabantwana the culture yokuvota ukuthi kuvotelwa kumnanzi kakhulu esikubonako lapho.
Kulolu khetho kuvotelwa mengamelo tawuhola lelive kule minyaka lesihlanu letako emalunga ePhalamende kanye nebaholi bemadolobha ema-councillors. Live leMalawi linebantu labalinganiselwa ku-21.6 million kanti ke bangu-7.2 million lababhalisele ukuthi batawuvota kulolu khetho. Imiphumela yalolu khetho kubheka ukuthi iphume mhla tingemashumi 24 nasihlanganisa lo mbiko tikhungo letiningi lapho bekuvotelwa khona bese tivele setivaliwe. Kubika lingithini Gule tithombe titfolakele kunoZipho Mabuza losebandleni lakaSADC lelibuka likhetho eMalawi.
Internetiko letisebenti umhlonishwa phela Buthelezi kutsata sive lesibhadaliswe kude sithathwe kumfundzate ukuthi sibike ke etikweni uma nje kunebufakazi. Intuna ke ivetelo kunayichaza ngetinsolo letikhona ukuthi labanye bafundzi abakhoni ke kuthola umfundzate ngenxa yokuthi labanye basuke ke babhadele lokungaba ke nemthelela ekutheni tifundo letidzinga ke kakhulu live kufukula umnotho tinganiketwa lithuba.
Position yelitiko nje lesithi asiyibeke sithunywe live sithunywe uhulumende wayo ngwenyama kubambisa eMaswati ngema-study loans. Ema-study loans anikwa eMaswati labonakala ukuthi emakolishi emukelekile ne-performance yawo kushoda kwetimali ukuthi singakhona kubanika bonke kunama-point lakalekile kubuka lokuthi labende kanje kuyabalungela ukuthi bangasitakala kuma-study loans. Kude nasente lokubhadalako la itiko. Kude ama-scholarships lathengiswako. Tikhona tona tinkulumo lesihle sitithola njengoba kuvela nasemaphalamende sike sayikhulumisa emahlandla. But those remain allegations leli tiko lebatsinzeka kokumbe lebebasabonakala basoleka batsinzeka kuleto tinkulumo bapotwa emaphoyiseni lasento umsebenzi wawo. For now kusete na inye conviction lekhona lekhomba ukuthi ukhona lo wathengisa scholarship kumbe iyawuba indzaba lephatheka komhla sekukhona lo sagwetshiwe ngebufakazi lokuphatheka ukuthi ukhona lo thengisile nathi singathokota nakangaba khona lokugwetshwa kongeke ukuthi ukwendile nakakwendile vele ajeze ngoba kusiko lesithunywa kona kuqiniseka nje kuqinisa sive kutheni cha ama scholarships awathengiswa nakungaba khona nje longathi ubhadalisiwe scholarship zingathokota avele tiko.
Inhlangano i-Members of Parliament and Designated Officers Bearers Pension Fund Mopado ihlanganyele nemalunga ayo leseshiselweni kubuka-ke inqubo yalesikhwama nekweluleka emalunga lapho kunetidzingo khona. La malunga befaka ekhatsi bosopolitiki labebakhona itolo nalabakhona lomuhla.
Lenye indzaba lekhulunyiswe kulo mhlangano ukuthi kuhlaselwa kwe-COVID-19 kophocelele amalunga lesikhwama iMopado ukuthi athathe imali enkulu kudama kuhlangabetana netidzingo tempilo. Lokwayehlisa imali yalelo nalelo lunga lelayithatha njengoba lamanye amalunga besathatha kakhudlwana. Emalunga besendlulisa celo lanato kuleli komiti lakaMopado.
Ibandla la khumalo kamanzinisi to me ngenza ba burial kuthi akusesibukete lokuthi sine njengoba namhlanje sekuthiwa imali yethu siyaphela sesiyaphuma kaMopado kusho ukuthi stafa yini sesidabe sesiba bantu abangafi
kunama properties kumbe alangaphandle onwa ngubani lamanazana agcinela phi by the way because mina lo sento wami ngibekile nguye lo khona kuyothenga leso stand ngiyabekisa noma wafaka lapha kuleya project noma ke wa investor ku business lethile angisabalwa nje mina kodwa kwathathwa leya kami imali
mhlawumbe uyabuyela emathema zabamathathu le mali yakho awuyiholi ngabe lapho ke naso ngasabuyile bese kwente kanjani kuso ungayithathi le mali.
Sihlalo eMopado lokungumhlonishwa mawe ikhumalo lophinza belunga leParlamente kanye nalobuke ihlelo lokutshala imali kulesikhwama Melusi Dlamini babese baphendvula imalunga.
Nyalo nje singemalunga sivele fasitolweni nyalo nasivele fasitolweni siyangqobana vele kepha naso kuphuma ilunga sekho sanhlobo nawe sokude lokufakako lapha sakulukhoni kokuthi utangqwatshwa njani imali yakho uba kuwe kokuthi 3 terms solo ngiyabuyela angiyithinzi nematholo ami abaledulu na kufanele ngiboleka ngiyiboleki futhi ngiyahlala mhlaso yithatha uyokhanza libibi angeke noyithindwe.
Bahlonishwa i-building yebo ingakhiwa ngemali yakho as a contributing member. Mawuphuma kodwa unikwa lokungikwakho equivalent of lo wakufaka nemathole akhona. Lolo lokutholile usuke kungilo equivalent ngoba lokulingenela nako lokufakile kule building.
Dlamini uchubeke wathi inhlose ukuthi lesikhwama sibe netakhiwo leyo indlela ukuthi sikhona ukwakha imali investment letawusita kwabela lunga nelunga nasekufika esikhathi kubika thando kuhle Mdluli inhlangano.
Sikolo lesincane senginamadvolo samukele tindlu tangansense leti ilungela-ke kusebenziswa ngulabo labakhubatekile ngelusito le-Komati Basin Water Authority Kobwa bese kupheleke iminyaka lemibili lesikolo Solomane-ke tindlu tangansense taso tagcwala ngako-ke simo besibucayi kakhulu. Umphatsi kaKobwa Trevor Shong uthi-ke bayinkampani batimisele kuchubeka nekwelula sandla kuya imimango labakhelene nayo. Shonga bekhuluma emcimbini wekwethula lo msebenzi ngalokusemthethweni kusokwesikolwa ngalesibili.
Lusuku belugcwele injabulo yodva elangeni lekucala lekuvulwa kwetikolo esigabeni sesithathu enginamadvolo primary school. Njengoba kusigaba lesisha nje iKomati Basin Water Authority ivele yabahlaba ngesikhozwana yabakhela indlu yangansense lilinganiselwa ku-330,000 amalangeni.
Siyabonga ukuthi sesifana netakhamiti kulendzawo. Nathi nje-ke ngalokufishane nakumenyetiwe kuyafanele lokuthi sibonakale sichamuka nathi ikakhulu takhiwo noma-ke letifana nato netikolo netibhedlela nako konke nje kuhlanganisa abantu abaningi kuba kulapho sibuka khona kakhulu ngeliso lethu thina ngoba siyathi nawede kwaba kunye le-benefit noma-ke lokubonakala kusitakala kuba kuningi indzawo lemqoka empilweni yomuntu ifuna futhi kube indzawo lekhanzakala isesimeni lesikwenta ukuthi ungesabi ukusondzela kiyo ukuba lesinye isikhathi ufuna uhlale ukhululeke kahle kuleyo ndzawo.
Lebekadze amelele umphatsi wetemfundvo kawo Patrick Shabangu uthi isimo semnotho sibi ngako lusito lolufana nalolu sidzingo salo sikhulu kakhulu kulesifundza.
Sithi kolo atala ngesheya kopa ungabi khashane nathi vani ukukhala kwethu sisabe soloku sikhala the economy The economy is just bad for everyone. Noma singathi siyacela kubatali nkosama sifane sifake 100 but the economy is bad.
Charles Mavuso egameni lendlunkulu yaseNginamatolo uthi sesithe isikhathi lesikolo sinalenkinga ngako babonga abacedzi ngalolu sito.
Sesiciniwe ukubha imitholi. Sikubhakala kuyagcwala siyangale kuyagcwala asathi ukuthi senza njani. Kepha lwamuhla sesitabe siphumule shayo umoya. Kufike info lenhle lokuthiwa noma ngabe seyigcwele le uyaba khona lalela into wako ukuthi ungagijela ngoba besikwenza sine bese siyabulala konke lobesikole.
Akhona Dlamini yena ubongele bafundzi ngenkondlo.
Oyinhlangano lenyakatisa intuthuko ilethe sipho sekunakekelwa kuhlandeka nempilo lecicimako kumlibalo ya embili.
Lo msebenzi lona ke uqinisekisa kufinyelela kwelive kuyo imikhombandlela yakamhlaba SDG 3, 4 na 6 lokhulumisa imfundo nempilo lekhonsako kanye nalihlandekile. Kubika Thabiso Maphanga eNginamatolo.
Inkampani yaka-eWade Namboti kanye nelehhovisi leliphini Nankulu sibasayine isivumelwano sokusebenzisana kuthuthukisa abalimi bakuleli lokufaka ekhathi sive lesikhubatekile. Akhuluma eMountain View embabane umphathi waka-eWade Samson Sithole uchazile ukuthi lesivumelwano singaphansi kwehlelo i-Smallholder Agricultural Productivity Enhancement and Marketing Project loluhlose ukuthuthukisa impilo tesive esingetulu kwa-170,000 kanye nabalimi.
By joining forces with NAMBOD, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Deputy Prime Minister's Office, and our valued partners, we are creating a holistic ecosystem that supports farmers from production to marketing.
Umphathi waka-eWade Samson Sithole uyachaza ukuthi lesivumelwano siyinkomba yokuthi le nkampani yaka-eWade iNambot kanye nelihhovisi leliphini Nankulu litibophelele kangakanani kwesekela abalimi labachamuka kudo tonke tinhlangothi tesive. Uthi kulesivumelwano letinhlangothi letintsatfu titawutfutfukisa imimango kutekulima lokuhambisana nemigomo yelitiko letekulima kanye nemagola kamhlaba yentuthuko lekhonsako lokufaka ekhathi kucedza kweswela kanye nekucedza indlala kulokunye. Lisekela lamabhalane lomkhulu ehhovisini leliphini Nankulu Makhosi Simelane lebekadze limele emabhalane lomkhulu liyaveta ukuthi lesivumelwano sikhombisa kwekuthi letinhlangothi titibophelele kangakanani ekutheni tisite sive sikhone kutiphilisa futhi sibe nekudla lokwanele.
Our mandate is to mainstream gender, children, persons with disabilities in all our activities. And clearly, we are also excited to hear the CEO making specific mention of leaving no one behind.
Umphathi wakaNambot Bhekizwe Maziya uthi lokunye labatawukwenda kulesivumelwano ukuthi baqinisekise ukuthi balimi labesekelwe ngaphansi kwalolu hlelo lwaka-eWade bathola imakethe yemkhicido yabo. Uthi batawuphindze babaside ngekubafundzisa ngalokubhekekile kutekuthengiselana kanye nemazinga kulokunye.
Some of the responsibilities and obligations we will be facilitating in this relationship includes, but not limited to, the following: facilitating structured buyer-seller agreements, supporting the identification and engagement of local, regional, and export markets.
Lisekela lamabhalane lomkhulu etiko letekulima Nhlanhla Motha lebekadze limele emabhalane lomkhulu lichazile ukuthi litiko linetinhlangothi letahlukene letitawukwesekela kuphumelela kwalesivumelwano. Luhlelo lwekesekela abalimi i-Smallholder Agricultural Productivity Enhancement and Marketing Project lesekelwe ngemali leyengcako ku-851 million emalangeni tinhlangothi letehlukene lokufaka ekhathi i-International Fund for Agricultural Development kanye ne-Green Climate Fund. Lobikako Nelson Dlangamandla inavuma inkosi inzinisa embabane.
Tabokunene lebekade bitanga commander nalabanye ke laboshwe nabo sebabuyile ke enkantolo kutochubeka nekutekwa kwamacala lababhekene nawo lafaka ekhathi kwephula komthetho ololwa nephekula sikhuni i-Suppression of Terrorism Act of Eswatini 2008. Sivele sisebenzisa umgwaqo losuka eStrashini embabane uyeke Waterford siyathokoza ngemsebenzi lowendiwe kumasipala wedolobha lembabane wekulungisa ke lomgwaqo lesive sixoxisana nalomsakato sithi imotolo taso zitawuhamba kangcono kulomgwaqo lebe sewusikhathata kodwa ke kunaletinye ke tingoni tekuphepha letifise ukuthi tinakwe usaqhubeka nokwakhiwa lomgwaqo.
Sekuyahambeka cishe kenyukela lana vele imoto lencane njengaleta ayikhona ukuhamba kahle but lokho so right singabonga. No sekungaba ngilaceleni nje ukuthi asilungisele kahle cishe konke kungabi nemahlathi nani kuhlale kuheshiwe nje kube clean so that nasite lana kutobuka abantwana singabakhanzi labanye sebanjonjiwe khona la
bangasikhulisela la kutoba kahle nale parking yabo otherwise kuyasita
njengabaqhubi kwetinqola ukuthi masipala uyasibambisa kakhulu no siyakudzinga kakhulu lokujengema parking sitokhona nalokuvulelana singemi emgaqweni ngoba lokunyenti bese kudala ingozi so sitawubonga kakhulu nema-humps because ama-speed humps ayasita njengoba bantwana labanye beta ngelitubane bafuna ukuwela lesitakucela ukuthi aphindze asifakele wona ama-zebra crossing atokhona abantwana sitokhona kubamela abantwana bewele.
Umxhumanisi welidolobha lembabane lakhetha bethe uthi lo mgwaqo osigaba lesingu-860 meters kanti ubite imali letigidi letisihlanu temalangeni lekuthi indleko letiphansi naticathaniswa naleminye imisebenzi yalolu hlobo lekwendiwe ukuthi basebenzise lwati nebuchwephesha betisebenzi tamasipala esikhundleni sekuthi bacashe tinkampani tangaphandle.
Le ndlela esebenta ngayo kulamalanga lo lwati sinalo in-house noma ke internally bonjinela bethu bayakhona ukucala phansi umgwaqo baze bawucetha so ngikho ke le mali ibe ngilo 5 million la kuhamba imoto khona eDulu kuphelile but lokusele nje kulama siding sisakha iwalkway la celeni la kutahamba khona abantu besikole ngoba siyathi umgwaqo vele lo busy ngabo previously bokhanza ukuthi sebabangisana netimoti la kubanga wona umgwaqo so nyalo we've done the improvement to have a walkway lo mgwaqo bowulimala kakhulu because bonjinela bathi kunale water table la ngaphasi noma ke kunemanti la ngaphasi so ngikobonga ukuthi uyalimala kakhulu so what they've done now ukuthi bay raise le surface a bit to avoid or to sort that problem yemanti.
Sabethe uchubeka wachaza ukuthi seyonke imigwaqo lelungiswako embabane ibita imali lengo-15 million emalangeni kanti lokhu kuyingcenye yeluhlaka lokuqinisekisa intuthuko nenhlalakahle yesive sasembabane i-Integrated Development Plan yeminyaka wa-2023 kuya ku-2028 kubika Mbonga Dube naSonto Mlangeni embabane.
Kunathi temidlalo inhlangano edlalisa umdlalo welibhola lemphebedo ye-Eswatini Tennis Association seyiqale ngomsebenzi wokusukumisa ngalikhethelo lesive labadlali abangaphansi kwa-16 kubafana kanye ke nawo amantombazane kusho kwamabhalane wenhlangano Cyprian Dlamini uthi leli khethelo ukubheka ukuthi limelele live emidlalweni yesifundza eminyakeni lotako. Kunathi the Natcom Cup amaphoyisa la ahlukahlukene akulela athumisa ke kubuya komqhudelwano wetemidlalo we-National Commissioners Cup. Lamaphoyisa athi lo mqhudelwano basita ke ukuthi bakhone kwatana kangcono baphinze ke bathole lethuba lekushukumisa umtimba emancamo ke alemidlalo ekadlalelwa ePolice College Matsapa. Dikaka masodwa amahle tindzaba telusuku tekucala kanti ke sita kubhekana lohlelo kulesikhathi manje asaseke likhefu lefishane sibahlole makathi ungayenzanga wena masibuya hlelo liyaqhuba. This is Kusile. Good morning.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.sz. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba research bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna senze ukukhiqiza lokusebenzisa.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Kwalomuhle sibonga ukuthi solo uhleli nathi ubukela iKusile breakfast show uhlelo lwangalesithathu ngabo lesithathu ke saye sithanze ukuthi sibuke indzaba tetempilo lesikhathi sanyalo ke sidabuka na indzaba lenkulu kakhulu lo mhlanje njengoba 17 inhlangano yakamhlaba lebuke tona indzaba tetempilo yathi njalo ngalosuku lolu kuyawufuna ukuthi umhlaba wonke ugubhe lusuku lwekunakekela umuntu nje lotawufuna lusito emtholampilo World Patient Safety Day. Sicubulo ke salonyaka sithi sitawubuka kakhulu kunakekeleka kwebantwana basatalwa nanasebatelwe, the safety of newborns and children. But it's marked under ibanner ke let's patient safety from the start. Bantwana abanakekeleke basatalwa njoba nje bathi bangatalwa vele sebangawo patients njoba vele batalwa khona edibhedlela la khona kufuna banakekeleke khona under the guidance of wona healthcare practitioners. Siyathola ke ukuthi lo nyaka kudraw kakhulu attention ekuthenini akube nekunakekeleka lokusetulu kwayo i-pediatric and newborn care. Sina Tabang Masangane, who is the Quality Management Assurance Program lapha etiko letempilo lotasita kutsi si understand na umsebenzi lomkhulu na ngasebusele Masangane sikwamukele ehlelweni.
Asibusele siyabonga kakhulu kusamukela silitiko letempilo.
Yeah, uma athi mhlabhlangene ehlangothini lwetempilo kunakwa bantwana basatalwa nawo bantwana ke lasebatelwe ekuthenini kuyanakeka lo ukuthi bayaye babafake under some lesithi they are the most vulnerable group to harm or unsafe care. Engabe evenda kangwane singathi leyo vulnerability sithombe sayo nje sikanjani sebantwana?
Asibonge kakhulu mhlambe ngacala nje la kulolo sokushito ukuthi lesicubulo lesi sibuke bantwana njengalokho usho bantwana ke sibabuka asesekhulelwe make kukhamba ke inhlelo takhona ayela khona abelekwa khona umntwana then ke bese sekusuka lapho so yakhula ke umntwana so umntwana unako kuba sengodini njengabo bonke bantu kodwa ke umntwana kakhulu ngilokuthi njalo kusathi ukuthi kusuke asakhula kusuke konke kusese ngakathathi sigaba sokuthi angakhona leyo mntwana mhlambe kudivikela ngiko nje uma ukhuluma ngelibisi lelibele lamake linetithako letulu kakhulu tekuvikela umntwana etifeni letinenge letitsite so umntwana usheshe bese uyadithola tifo sekeleke lesicubulo ke lesisibuke ukuthi akuvele nje kuvikelwe umntwana from the start from the start ngilokuthi lo mntwana asaqala asakhulelwe afika futhi emhlabeni asifake inhlelo tethu letonke leticinile ukuthi lo mntwana loyo abe umntwana lovikelekile
mhlawumbe uyayigcizelela lendzaba ukuthi bantwana vele ngibo igroup le most vulnerable ngiyafuna lokho understand ukuthi uma sikubuka njengoba mina nje engcenye bengingasho ukuthi I was misinformed ngoba ngeke ngithi nangisebedlela noma ngangiyofuna liphilisi lenhloko ngikhaza ngathi kunebantu labakhulile lapha kunebantwana usho ukuthini mhlawumbe nakathi bantwana ngibona ba most vulnerable to harm from unsafe care
okay uma kukhulunywa nge-unsafe care okay kukhulunywa noma kukhulunywa nje nge-care uma uta emtholampilo uyakhona njengemvulo omdzala ukuthi kuhlalwe nawe phasi nalabo labaniketa lelo sito letempilo so lokho kuba ukuthi bese siyavumelana ukuthi kulokugula lokho wena utawuthola nako lusito nalo kanje so umntwana lokho angeke uze ukhona ukuthi uhlale phansi naye ukhulume naye so lo udependa kakhulu kulabatali nalabo mhlawumbe labamlethe kuleyo nakho so lokho kakhulu kwenta lokuthi lo mntwana vele kube ngilelo lo vulnerable nangaphandle kwalokho lese sengibushidwe ukuthi phela umntwana vele usakhula so tifo letinenge ticala tishaya yamshaya kakhulu umntwana nalokuthi ke vele lo mntwana udependa kakhulu kulomunye umuntu kuzakhona kuphila kahle
I think kulelo phimbo lelo nje kuyasiniketa lelithuba lokuthi salo sibuka lenzaba ye patient safety lesiya sibuka kakhulu in abstract terms as a general idea kanti it goes far deeper than that and you know I'm happy lokuthi ulana because you can get into the nuances as well as the complexities of it all uma si understand lenzaba lena the kinds of risks la khona bantfana actually face in our health facilities ngimapha
so i-risk lekhona ukuthi nangabe eta umntwana esibhedlela njalo sikhuluma nje usakhula lo mntwana usangagcini so lapha esibhedlela kunebantu labanye labagulako so nangabe ke kukhona kugula kubuye kuthiwe ke kunala kuthathelwana kwetifo lokuthathelana kwetifo kwehlukene mhlambe ngakubeka ukuthi kathathu so lokucala kunekuthi lesifo uyasithola esibhedlela ngokuthi utsinzane nalomunye noma utsinzwa njengelo lokunakekela so lo mntana usheshe bese sokukhanisa uyakuthatha lokugula lokho nangabe atsinzwe ngilona lotomnakekela naye angakadinakekeli mfaka ikhathi mhlambe ukuthi uyangisuyakhumula sasikhuluma nawe ugeza tandla kufaka ama mask nako konke lokho kokuqala lokho then kwesibili kunekuthi kunetifo letitholakala lethi sithi airborne lose tifo lethi nje tila emoyeni njengabo TB nangabe uyangena nje emtholampilo kanzi kunebantu labanayo le TB labanye basangacala naloko lashwa kule TB so le TB yabo le tifo leto tigijima kakhulu so ngasimna ngabe ke emasotsha akho emtimba noma usese weak so yakhona kusheshe ube sesuyadi habula leto tifo leto yes so lo mfana ke kuloko kumfaka engodini kakhulu lokuthi simnakekele ukuthi angathine lesimthinsako sithi siyamsita singamfakeli tifo lo mntwana loyo nala kule environment yasesibhedlela asicontrol ngawo konke lesingakhona kwenta ukuthi lo muntu angahabuli athathe tifo letikhona letitholakala emoyeni letinenga lo labantu bedevelela emtholampilo so mabasehleti nje lapha bamele lisito akwendeki lokho sibese siyabahlukanisa lokuthi sine triage so lokho sibahlukanisa sesibabutile nalokunye ukuthi wena ngisaluphuma uhamba kahle so mabafika nje labantu bafika enzaweni yinye kanti lo munye unesifo lesithathelana lesilayo ngekwe moya airborne
ngifunze amagama lamasha kakhulu kuna season yabo AMR bo antimicrobial resistance la khona ngifike ngafunza khona ngama antibodies nokuthi asebenza kanjani kuliciniso lelingakanani ukuthi umphana kunema antibodies la sengawa develop le mina ngekukhula kwami encenye sengwa developile kuthi encenye nje kulowo ma airborne diseases lo washoko mina ngeke ukuthi sekukhwathi indzawo lesengigwame kudo ngakhanza ukuthi I'm protected kusencenye bengakhabula lokho kugula lokho loyo mphana ngoba yena amasotsha akhe emtimba usakhula usengabe exposed to a lot of these things ukhanza ukuthi yena sekuyambamba lokho kugula kuliqiniso
kuliqiniso kakhulu okahle nje ukhuluma ngoba ngilolunye ihlelo lelo lolukhona kule patient safety lokubuka ukuthi lama antibiotics ethu vele asamsida yini loyo mntwana noma loyo muntu lode emtholampilo yes so sitawubuya la khona sibuka inhlelo vele leti lokuthi lo mntwana angagcina kanjani focus le breastfeeding so la kulama antibiotics lokhuluma ngawo lama sotsha emtimba ama antibiotics masotsha emtimba so lawo lamanenge a developa ngekuthi lo muntu abe exposed kuleyo environment le asengibekise nje ngibekise ngale covid lesibuya kuyo nangabe umuntu athole le covid lokusho ukuthi umtimba wakhe so tawukhona nyalo ku developer emasotsha latawulwa ne covid base simfake la kunale covid khona so umntwana ke kuba lapha bengithi mhlambe ngezingena kakhulu leyo science kodwa sengifake kuyo so ke lo mntwana ngalokuthi uta asangabi exposed kakhulu ngoba usuka le esibelethweni sama kwakhe so makafika ke la mhlawumbe soba exposed kule environment le nalamagciwane lamane sengila khona ka developer emasotsha alawo la expose kuko so ke ngikonje uthi wena so semtimba so develop emasotsha lamane ngalo sobe exposed into letine so le risk ke lenye ke lena la khuluma ngayo ke mhlabhlangene ngilokuthi sibo wathi phela umntwana nakasemncane usibeka sangabe exposed izawona letine usanga develop emasotsha lalwa nalama conditions la khona la emhlabeni
lokunye lokubambisa kakhulu ukuthi sisala nawo onke lama conditions lawo kulabantwana njobasho nje mhlabhlangene lana hlangothini lelitiko letempilo ukuthi kufuneka kakhulu ema strategies la khonsako on policy level na ku infrastructure level and utsinza kakhulu nathi tiluba taka pediatric and newborn care i conversation yethu leyo namuhla uma sikhuluma nga sustainable strategies under policy and infrastructure ngabe silivela kangwane simap ngikuphi la kufuna sicinise khona ngikuphi lesente kahle khona
okay asesicale ke mhlambe sibuke ka policy policies ne kunema regulations nama acts la khuluma ngetempilo ku public health nako konke mhlambe besifaka khathi ama policies bo health policies la vele acizetela kakhulu ukuthi laba vulnerable kufuna kusibanike delisito elibese seliyakusho nalokuthi lo sito lolu faka khathi inani bese sekuba nanakulothi ke kulehlangothi nje la ngichamuka ngakhona la quality kunama standards la developiwe la buka nje exactly ukuthi umntwana kufuna anakekelwe kangakanani asesekhulelwe kuze kuyofika la khona asabele kwakhona nalokuthi masasabele kufuna kusiende njani kufa ekhathi ke ukuthi lo make vele unakekelwa nje kusukela a discover lokuthi sokhulelwe bese bana dihlelo ukuthi kufuna ukuthi aye emtholampilo kubaliwe nalezo kufuna ukuthi aye awupopola lesisu isikhathi letingakanani bese kuba nemjovo la uthola lo make lesi sikhathi akusiyo umjovo lo nakekelwe ukuthi unake yena kodwa ngumjovo walo mntwana lokhulako lekhathi bane imijovo le kanjalo yes makaphuma ke lo mntwana lapha kufuna ukuthi abelekelwe esibhedlela kutobonakala lokuthi vele tonke letinto uyadithola lo mntwana makafika nje la emhlabeni kune imijovo la itholako bize futhi lokugoma vele bese kusekuvele kucala ngalaso sikhathi leso so yachubeka ke lo mntwana uba negoma ngehamba njengetihlelo lokusethi setibekiwe so lama policies akhona bese sekuba nalama lama standards nala kuthiwa ama guidelines la khona imigwaco lesho ukuthi umntwana kufuna ukuthi anakekeleke kanjani mhlambe lokunye ke lesingakubuka kule hlangothi leti hlelo leti khosako nje sibuka lokuthi mangabe ngoba kufaka ikhathi i-community la hayi le tiko letempilo lapha esibhedlela kuphela kucala le ku-community so letinhlelo ticala khona so lapha nje kule community kunechaza lokufuna lidlalwe ngumndeni bese sedlalwa ngilaba labasebenza tempilo kuleyo mango noma kule community kufaka ikhathi labacucudele but icala ekhathi emndenini kulaba lababili lababukela umntwana netihlobo takho yes ucutele ke ukuthi make nyalo kulesikhathi lesi makana 3 wetinyanga ufuna sendeni akana 4 wetinyanga akhulele kufuna kusaye emtholampilo kuze ayobeleka lo make.
Siyathuthuka enoluhlangothini lwaka infrastructure njoba nje mhlawumbe ugcizelayo indzaba ukuthi le ndlela tindlu setithuthuke ngakhona there's infrastructure developments that have to happen all around the world when it comes to healthcare. Ngabe siyathuthuka enoluhlangothi leli for ukudalwa kwabantu
ema standards lamanye abuke lokuthi le infrastructure njengalokushilo. Okay, infrastructure ehlukene kaningi. Kunale building, kunale technology. So lokungena ku infrastructure, technology yethu le machine nako konke lokho vele kusezingeni lelingelo so resources part of infrastructure. So kule tema kwema building, kule tibonza nani siyathuthuka. Ngoba nyalo nje kunelihlelo lelikhuluma nga baby friendly just onke ama facilities donke ibhedlela kufuneka limithe lesithi i baby friendly facility. So lapho kuyadifana lokuthi la kufuna kube neligumbi la khona kubelekelwa khona kuphinde futhi makasuka lapho lo mntwana ayenza wena letside la khona atawufike abe nalo make then mina ngabe mhlawumbe kude make so nalo mntwana utawuniketwa indzawo la khona atawukhona kumunyisela khona umntwana anakelwe futhi khona lapho le ma services akhona abe integrated lapho. Yes.
Indzaba ye health workers roles nakilelo ukuthi kuma campaign I believe nje even the last one eminyaka lophelile ukuthi sasinake kakhulu cishe njengenhlala yenda I safety yama health workers kube kufanele vele kakhulu I well-being yama health workers indzaba legcizelelwa kakhulu ithaya kanjani tibophelela kanjani yona directly into keeping ema newborns nebantwana ukuthi babe safe.
Kokuqala nje la ungakasebenzi kuleli gumbi lebantwana noma usebenze ngemntwana kufuna kube ufunze there's a minimum qualifications ufuna ube nayo kokuqala lokho asengibekise nje nangabe ungumbelekisi ufuna ukuthi ube uyendile imidwifery kunetinhlelo letiningi kune general nje nursing nangabe unesi ngakhuluma ngahlangosi labodokotela so ke bese so uyaphuma kule general labanye sebawenda mhlambe lekubukete engqondo kuthiwa psychiatric labanye beni community labanye benda le midwifery so laba sebenta kakhulu kuleli hlelo leli lebantwana kusukela lela khona kubelekelwa khona ngilaba labende le midwifery I license ke la kude ka health kude tempilo iya renew wonke umuntu njalo ngeminyaka losebenta ngemuntu kutempilo njalo ngeminyaka urenewa na uswa ilicense so ungakayirenew le license ukuthi wena usebenze nebantu kufuna ukuthi ube ufunzile kune ma points ke la khona labekwe ngilabo nursing council ukuthi kufuna ube ufunze kangaka so ngeke bakurenewele le contract yakho noma license yakho ukuthi uqhubeke kusebenza nebantwana nangabe awukachubeki futhi watifundzisa wena ngoba phela umhlaba uyashintsha ngetifo teacher bo covid nje besingabadi naletinye tifo so kufuna ukuthi nawe uticeceshe kuloko utoba relevant so kuyanakwa ke lokho ukuthi kulomnyaka lokho wena uceceshe wafika ngaphandle kwanayo ya basic yakho lekhona lapha letinhlelo leto ke dikhona la esibhedlela kunabo in service njengaloko kwabuda lembaye ngichansi amaphilisi basebenzisa amaphilisi egciwane le HIV so ke konke lokho kuyashintsha sinyalo bantwana sebekufuna banikwe na bayafunziswa bonke lapho yes
sinakilelo ukuthi incenye nje lokusekusinika nelithuba lo ukuthi ukhulume nabo badali ekakhulu bomake labacetha kubeleka ngoba siyayinaka le reality ukuthi bakhona labathi bangabeleka bafuna ukuphuma esibhedlela baye ekhaya seyawunaka ineni njengoba usogcizelele ukuthi umcwanga kanani ukuthi ninabo midwife labahlale bafundziseka njengoba kunema new developments ukuthi bakhona kunakekela labo bantwana labo khuluma nabo labo maya ukuthi cha phela bekunene umfana natalwa ake nihlale naye esibhedlela under the supervision of Emma healthcare workers for a certain period lengaka at least at the very least kube kunayo period lengaka then sesinganikhulula
kunjalo la kuletinhlelo tekunakekela bantwana letikhorsako lolunye loluhamba embili naku lokuthiwa ngu skin to skin la khanza khona ukuthi lo mfana vele kufuna anamathele ahlale nalomake kube nale bond letsite nje kusukela ekuqaleni lapho ke kule skin to skin kupronyotwa nala ekuthenini lo mfana akahlale ebeleni vele kusukela nje kule hour aqalile abelekiwe so lokho ke labo make bavele bakhuthade ukuthi babe khona la kulomtholampilo lababelekele kuwo kubukwe amonithwe lokuthi uyakhona indvele kona lokumunyisa lo mntwana ngoba labanye basaqala phela kubeleka
nje ngathi ngene emadzevu masangane lenza ba skin to skin ngoba lo munye nga interpreter from a trivial point of view ukuthi awukufuna kunamathele nje ngoba ngumntalo wakhe kube ngathi kude sizathu sikhwala izathu lesi science lapho sekuthi kuyamsita leyo mbana ekukhuleni kwakhe kuma emotions nenjabulo yakhe leyo mbana and everything mos
umntwana nakatalwa sengumuntu loyo actually umuntu vela sesele esibelethweni so na njengaloku kusho nawo usunema emotions and unawo konke silomvulwana naye udzinga even that sense of belonging uyakhumbula kukhulunywa ngabo Maslow silozo wonke umuntu vele lotalwa ufuna abe ne sense of belonging so amncane kufuna tivele ukuthi sofikile and ubelonga ku somewhere kulomdali so lokho ngilokupromoter lokho kuba nale bond nalomntwana ayisele bond ukuthi ngilomake kuphela lo bondala lomntwana nalomntwana bese ubonda kakhulu nalo nina and lokho bese kwenta ukuthi akhona kube nale budlelwane kusukela nje umntwana amncane kakhulu kulomake ke vele kupromoter ngoba labanye ukhansi ngale kushaywa nje dinginga leti khona umuntu akasakhona akasanezaba nemntwana so lokho kupromoter le bond nalokuthi lawana bachone kwenda lokuhlangana vele nalomntwana and kakhulu ke bese sekuba nalokumunyiswa kwalomntwana ngoba lobo ukhuluma ngako nje labo risk le vulnerability kakhulu incishiswa ngilokuthi lo mntwana ahlale nalomake aphindze futhi amunye lelibele lelibisi lelibele
uyithinzile indzaba kwekuthi indzaba yethu sonke ithi ingasuka esibhedlela emtholampilo umntali sawufikile emangweni kunelichaza lekufuna lidlalwe members of the community kanjalo nebatali bemtali emangabe bakhona nabo so that responsibility of empowering the parents as well as the community members and caregivers if you will ekuthenini masithi nje siyayiteka lenzaba practically speaking lakithi sibakhuthata kanjani ukuthi bona batali neSwatini babe ngema active participants ku safeguard labantwana phela edibhedlela nakuma clinic settings
utsinzizaba lenkulu kakhulu umntwana usangakhona ukuthi nakekeleke udependa kulabo labambukile singancusa nje kakhulu kubatali ikakhulu kati at family level umntwana vele ukuthi anakekeleke in terms of cleanliness usi lo mntwana lo ngumntwana lo clean lo nakekelwako kususwe nendzawo la khona kube idindzawo vele letihlobile njalo phela sesiqale khona lokuthi umntwana ushesha athathe tifo so lendzawo la kuyo umntwana lahlala khona la khaya akube indzawo le clean nalokhu masimendela kudla simendele emandi ahlobile lokho lesimendela ngako nangabe soyafundwa ku clean namake futhi kanjalo ukuthi phela sikhuluma nga skin to skin lo make kufuna kube ngumuntu uvele nanaye lo nakekelekile kudla uyakuthola ekhaya umtedlane nje siyathi kathini usibovele uhlalela lo mntwana anakekele pheke babe lapha ekhaya so nalapha khutsata lo akadle umtedlane kutobuya agcine emtimbeni akhicide libisi lolwenele indzawo ibe clean bese kuthi ke nangabe kukhona laba ke lasebabuke just like angithi family level so lalabanye khansa basibo batali balomntwana kodwa solo ngilaba labakhona kulomndeni extended family ababuke nakhona ba monitor labanye batsala baya address umntwana okukhuliswa kanjani bakhona kusheshe bambona umntwana babona umntwana soyathimula umntwana hayi sokungathi unemkhuhlanyana khona ukukhutsata lo mntali osagijima amikisa umntwana esibhedlela yes
encenye singangeni kuto tinombolo in terms of with statistics is made but in terms of the research yethu ne data lesinayo how much do we know masangane etindzabeni teke ukuthi bantwana bethu ba safe kangakanani akhona yini lawo ma patient safety incidents la involve abantwana singasho ukuthi ayas informa how much do we know in that regard ukuthi kuloko lesesikwadi ko informa kanjani I planning yethu going forward especially today ngoba lisuku lako vele.
Okay. Tikhona tibalo asengibekise ukuthi kunebantwana laba kunala kuthiwa ama outbreaks kusho sencenye ikakhulukati sine nje lesibuye sibe nako kune eminyakeni kuba khona tinyanga la khona sibuye sibone khona abantwana bathola tifo temsheko kakhulu so kakhulu ngolokushaya kakhulu lokho kube bengathi nje sesibuke ngetibalo tethu etikoltempilo ukuthi imvamisa abantwana laba basengodini laba bemisheko noma ke umntwana naka sanza kubelekwa so isikhathi lesiningi lapho ukhanzela abantwana labanengi bayashiya ngilokuthiwa ke bo perinatal care nalokunye ukhanzela ukuthi encenye yes letifo lethathelwa nako kakhulu liyakhula kakhulu nakhona kuya ngetigaba letitsite eminyakeni sisiyathi nje siletinyanga leti vele njengabo phusika nje kanti letifo temsheko tikhuphuka kakhulu ikakhulu kati okay ehlobo liyana uthola ukuthi lamandi lapho akusiwo la clean kahle kanti letifo letiningi setiyabathola sekubana letifo temsheko nani so tifo leto letikhona kakhulu ke lokunye ngilokuthi lesikubonako bantwana labanenge ukhansi abakhona ukuthola lelibisi lelibele so nakhona lokho siyanaka lokuthi inombolo tiyasenyukela kakhulu ekuguleni kulabo bantwana labangakhona ukumunya libisi lelibele.
Sasiyayiphethe inkulumo yethu ngiyathemba nje sithatha kulolo phimbo letabo in terms of lama outbreak ethu lama outbreak lawo informa lokho ukuthi kenyalo.
Yes.
We're pleading with Batali, we're pleading with policymakers, we are making a call towards families, even Kangwane, akakomite kunai patient safety. Sithi namuhla sina khulu bantwana labatalwako nalapha sebakhona nje bantwana children in general. Ngibukela la camera nayo ukhulume nabo ukuthi lo muhla policymaker nangabe uyabukela member of a family wena caregiver asikomitheni kunaku kuze sita uqinisekisa ukuthi nangemambala bantwana bethu they are caregiven from the start.
Okay. Asiboka kakhulu. Kubuye kuthiwe kune call for action njalo mangabe si commemorate lilanga. I call for action yalo njengalokho soyibalile ibale kamnanzi kakhulu asicale emndenini ekhaya siyacela ukuthi umuntu nangabe khona lo sakhulelwe akanakekelwe akhone kuya emtholampilo ayopopola sisu njengaloko atsheliwe maka afika emtholampilo akhone ukufeza lawo ma-appointments aye emtholampilo apopole sisu sakhe ngale tinombolo ka-8 mhlambe angakakhoni angafika esigabeni sekubeleka nangabe lo soyabelekwa lo mntwana akabelekele esibhedlela umntwana angabelekelwa ekhaya siyathi katheni bekunaba bebelekise ekhaya but nyalo vele sekuyakhutsatwa ukuthi wonke lokhulelwe nasekufika esigaba sakhe sekubeleka akaye ekhaya nakacetse kubeleka umntwana siyacela ukuthi make abambisene nababe wemntwana umntwana akahlale ebeleni ngaso sonke isikhathi endzaweni futhi la khona ahlala khona kube indzawo lehlandekile namake futhi akhona ukuthola titsako letikahle ukuze akhicite libisi emangweni mhlambe kulababuke umango umntwana wethu sonke asibabuke abantwana sibone umntwana hey lapha ngathi sokunet bonqubulunjwane asigijime sikukhona ukuthi sikhona ukuvikela lokho sikhutsade emangweni kunalabo asebenza khona emangweni labafaka ikhathi bacucuteli asibabambise kuloko umntwana aye kuyogoma ngato tonke tigaba ahambe agome akhona ukuvikeleka etifeni lababukeke labasebenza imitholampilo siyacela ukuthi njengalokhu thina sifundisiwe futhi siyathi nalokuthi sisebenta ngale migomo yethu ema standards ema guidelines konke ema SOPs lokuthi thina asikunakekele konke lokho sikwende sikulandzele labatisha mthetho siyacela ukuthi imithetho lekhona lekhulumisa abantwana kunakekelwa kwabantwana nekuthi abantwana umntwana ufuna ukuthi anakekele kanjani leyo mthetho imithetho leyo mane siyibuke lese imidzala sikhona ukuthi siyilandzelele ukuthi mhlambe iphindze yentiwe kabusha. Siyajabula nangabe leyo mthetho singagcini nalokuthi thina ama policy makers nje kuyishaya kuphela kodwa siphinde silandzelele ukuthi le mithetho yona mbamba ilandzelwa kangakanani. Kungakhona naloko kusita ukuthi siphinde sihambe sigaba lesithe ekunakekeleni bantwana.
Masangane sibonga kakhulu isikhathi sakho lomhla ekseni. Thabang Masangane Quality Management Program lapha etiko letempilo sigubha lusuku World Patient Safety 2025. Futhi ke labakhulelwe abahambe baye kuyawupopola bonkosi basesekhulelwe uyagcizelela ke ukuthi base baqedzile kupopola nase kufika isikhathi sekuthi salobabeleka babeleke khona esibhedlela kuphela kubeleka etindlini. Uyagcizelela ukuthi umbana akamunye ebeleni bababe nanako bakunakisise lo ukuthi umbana uyamunya ebeleni lama kwakhe umango unake bantwana tisha mthetho nanato ke yathi ibuke leyo mithetho ukuthi ayisekho in archaic isese relevant njengoba phela nama policy makers vele badali bongosi 1 minute after 7 sinethi indzaba tethu tesingisi masibuye market.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.sz. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Welcome back. It's 2 minutes past 7. We are going to dive into the second bulletin of the program. We'll start here. The Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Kusile, has arrived in Kumasi. That's in Ghana, where she will be representing His Majesty King Mswati III at the funeral of the Ashanti Nation Queen Mother Asante Hama Nana Konodo Yadum III. The burial rites of the late Queen Mother, who died at the age of 98, will take about a week. The TPM landed at the Kumasi airport and was received by the Eswatini Embassy and Ghana First Secretary Stembe Zogama and Kumasi Mayor Richard Ofori Ajumang Boadi.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Kusile, has arrived in Kumasi, Ghana, with her delegation, which includes the Honorable Minister of Tinkhundla, Sikhumbuzo Dlamini, Prince Phuhlapi, and Chief Nzabankulu Simelane. The DPM arrives here barely 3 months after His Majesty King Mswati III's visit to strengthen relations between the two nations. His Majesty has since sent this delegation to represent him and Emaswati and stand with the Ashanti royal family and the nation of the Ashanti during this difficult time. The DPM and his delegation are expected to take part in different activities as part of the funeral rites of the late Asante Hema Nana Konadu Yadom III. These key events include filing past by different sectors, paying homage, attending a vigil, and the funeral, which is expected to be held on Thursday. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, Kumasi, Ghana.
And to this now, the Minister for Labour and Social Security, the Honourable Philip Telezi, is urging anyone who paid for a scholarship to report to the ministry with cases to be referred to the police and the Anti-Corruption Commission. Economists who have warned that the sale of scholarships is not just illegal, but it's also it has economic sabotage. When bright, deserving students are shut out by corruption, the nation loses the very talent needed to drive innovation and growth.
The Minister for Labour and Social Security, Honourable Philip Telezi, reiterated that scholarships are not for sale. He says these scholarships are strictly awarded to deserving individuals who have been accepted into local institutions of higher learning based on clear, merit-based point system. Honourable Philip Telezi says not a single cent is required to access scholarship, dismissing claims that payment guarantees placement.
Ama-study loans anikwa eMaswati labonakala ngokuthi emakolishi emukelekile ne-performance yawo kushoda kwetimali ukuthi singakhona kubanika bonke. Kunama-point laqalekile kubuka lokuthi labende kanje kuyabalungela ukuthi bangasizakala kuma-study loans kude nasente lokubhadalako la idiko.
The Honourable Minister confirmed that the ministry continues to receive reports from members of the public, even Parliament, claiming they were asked to pay for scholarships. He says without solid evidence, these cases remain allegations. He noted that individuals suspected of involvement have been reported to the police before and they are being investigated, but so far no convictions have been made. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
E-Wade, NAMBOD and the Deputy Prime Minister's Office have signed a Memorandum of Understanding, that's an MOU, to form a transformative partnership under the Smallholder Agricultural Productivity Enhancement and Marketing Project, SAPAMP. This groundbreaking collaboration places smallholder farmers, particularly those in rural areas, at the center, with a strong emphasis on empowering the youth, women and persons with disabilities. Now, the event was held at Mountain View in Babane.
The future of agriculture lies in shared resources, coordinated action, and collective accountability. By joining forces with NAMBOD, the Minister of Agriculture, the Deputy Prime Minister's Office, and our valued partners, we are creating a holistic ecosystem that supports farmers from production to marketing. This partnership reflects the best of collaborative governance, where every institution contributes its unique strength to common vision.
The Undersecretary at the Deputy Prime Minister's Office, Makosi Simelane, who was representing the Principal Secretary, Siboniso Ngambule, says the agreement promotes financial inclusion.
Our mandate is to mainstream gender, children, persons with disabilities in all our activities. And clearly, we are also excited to hear the CEO making specific mention of leaving no one behind. We continue to have conversations for financial inclusion so that no one is left behind in implementing this particular groundbreaking project.
NAMBOD's Chief Executive Officer, Begizwe Mazia, highlights their part in the agreement.
Some of the responsibilities and obligations we'll be facilitating in this relationship includes, but not limited to, the following: facilitating structured buyer-seller agreements, supporting the identification and engagement of local, regional, and export markets, identifying opportunities for investment or refurbishment of marketing infrastructure where required, providing capacity building on quality and safety standards, post-harvest handling and grading for market compliance.
According to E-Wade, the Smallholder Agricultural Productivity Enhancement and Marketing Project seeks to establish a resilient, market-driven and sustainable agricultural system. The project is supported with over 851 million emalangeni from key partners, including the International Fund for Agricultural Development and the Green Climate Fund. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Mbabane.
Now, the Kingdom of Eswatini is working towards operationalizing the National Monthly Drought Monitor. The Chief Executive Officer of the National Disaster Management Agency, Victor Matlalela, says the equipment has been distributed across all Tinkundla centers. Matlalela was speaking during the Regional Drought Resilience Workshop held in Eswatini.
The ongoing workshop focused on early warning systems and training on the National Monthly Drought Monitor.
I-National Drought Monitor lolu hlelo lolukhonako ukuthi on a monthly basis sikhona ukukhicita imap le map lena lekhombisa loluhla noma luhlelo lwesigaba sesomiso ukuthi sesikuphi manje.
The Chief Executive Officer of the National Disaster Management Agency, Victor Matlalela, says the National Drought Monitor will provide a map of drought conditions, showing the severity and extent of drought across the country. Matlalela shared details on how the system works, explaining that it uses GIS and satellite imagery to generate the maps, with data collected from observation stations. The country learned important lessons during the drought of 2015 and 2016. The Eswatini Water Service Corporation Managing Director's representative Nontombi Mapanga says they have developed a partnership with NDMA Center of Excellence to receive timely drought data.
Hlangothi laka integrated water resources management lapho sibuka tinvote ukuthi emanti ethu akalahleki yini seyinkampani nje sifaka imali eningi kakhulu kulomnyaka lona iyale kubo 50 million yekonga lamanti.
She says they have integrated water resources management, allowing them to serve water, and highlighted that this year the company invested 50 million emalangeni in fixing leaking water pipes. Mapanga further notes that the government has supported the construction of Nonvo Dam and plans to expand the Hawane Dam. The workshop provides Eswatini with the opportunity to learn from other countries, such as the United States, while other countries are also learning from Eswatini, particularly regarding the National Drought Monitor System. Reporting Sondomblangeni, Ezulwini.
Moving further, Phil, the team of independent experts commissioned by the United Nations Human Rights Council has concluded that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza, issuing a report on Tuesday that calls on the international community to end the genocide and take steps to punish those responsible for it.
As Israel's ground operation in Gaza City expands, a new UN inquiry finds there's mounting evidence that a genocide in the enclave is unfolding.
The goal of the Israeli government is abundantly clear as we continue to witness the destruction of Palestinians in Gaza. The Commission finds it is genocide. Today we witness in real time how the promise of never again is broken and tested in the eyes of the world. The ongoing genocide in Gaza is a moral outrage and a legal emergency.
The Commission found Israel has committed 4 of the 5 acts against Palestinians laid out in the UN Genocide Convention, which was adopted in the wake of the Holocaust. The report cites statements from Israel's president, prime minister, and former defense minister as direct evidence of genocidal intent. The latest findings from the UN inquiry were slammed by Israel as a one-sided attack on the country.
Israel categorically rejects the libelous rant published today by this Commission of Inquiry. It spreads the malicious genocide narrative regarding the data coming out of Gaza. It is coming out of the Hamas Ministry of Information or Ministry of Health, and this is a Hamas organ, and I do not believe the figures.
While the pushback from Israel was expected, the latest UN inquiry joins a growing litany of genocide scholars and independent NGOs who've also come to the conclusion that Israel is committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza.
The U.S. President Donald Trump arrives in the United Kingdom on Tuesday for a state visit during which the British government hopes a multi-billion-dollar technology deal will show a transatlantic bond remains strong despite differences over Ukraine, the Middle East and the future of the Western alliance.
U.S. President Donald Trump is returning to the UK for a historic state visit. He is the only American president to be invited back for his second term. But instead of a warm welcome, protests are scheduled for the leader's arrival. Police have been preparing for months. Amid a period of heightened political violence in the U.S., every detail is being carefully reviewed.
Yeah, the recent shooting of Charlie Kirk will initiate a review of all the security arrangements. So a review of the routes being taken, the premises, the residents they're staying at, looking at any buildings that overlook those areas, line of sight, etc., so any possible threat.
The visit is set to be a charm offensive against Donald Trump, who has a particular fondness for all things royal.
We look forward to being there and honoring the king and honoring really your country. Your country is a fantastic country, and it'll be our honor to be there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. I shall happily take that back to His Majesty.
It's beautiful.
Wednesday, he's scheduled to take a carriage tour with King Charles and attend a lavish banquet at Windsor Castle. He will then turn to politics on Thursday with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Starmer has so far had success with Trump. Earlier this year, he turned up the flattery and quickly struck a trade deal with the president. The Prime Minister hopes to keep Trump as an ally, as the two discuss a tech deal, trade, and the war in Ukraine.
And to these now, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio pledged strong support for Qatar security on a lightning visit on Tuesday as anger boils in the Gulf Alley over last week's Israel attack on Hamas negotiations.
As America's top diplomat touches down in Qatar's capital, a daunting task awaits. Marco Rubio seeking to re-engage Qatar in its mediation role to end the war in Gaza following an Israeli strike on Hamas leaders in Doha.
We think we have a very short window of time in which a deal could happen. We don't have months anymore, and we probably have days and maybe a few weeks, so it's a key moment. If any country in the world can help mediate it, Qatar is the one. They're the ones that can do it. Now, I don't know if they can after what happened, but I think they could. If anyone can, they can.
The U.S. Secretary of State's visit to Qatar comes as Israel's ground offensive in Gaza City is now underway. Washington calling for dialogue even though the Israeli Prime Minister continues to issue threats to Hamas.
Netanyahu said that he doesn't rule out targeting Hamas anywhere they are. You said that you don't want to see Qatar hit again. Are there any guarantees that Qatar...
Well, he won't be hitting in Qatar.
Donald Trump seeking to reassure Doha. This as a media report emerges that the U.S. president was informed by Israel before last Tuesday's strike on Qatar. While Washington claims it was unaware of the Israeli operation, its ties in the region are being tested as it aims to calm tensions with Qatar while also standing firm by Israel.
Now, a judge on Tuesday dismissed terrorism charges against Luigi Maggione in New York State's case over the killing of Unita Care CEO Brian Thompson, but kept the state's second-degree murder charges against the Ivy League graduate.
Luigi Mangione, on trial for the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, leaves court 2 charges lighter, after a New York State judge determined that he had not committed an act of terrorism. In his decision, Justice Gregory Caro said that the ideological nature of the healthcare executive's killing did not justify terrorism charges.
There is no indication in the statute that a murder committed for ideological reasons, in this case the defendant's apparent desire to draw attention to what he perceived as inequalities or greed within the American healthcare system, fits within the definition of terrorism. The evidence presented failed to establish that the defendant committed the crime to coerce or intimidate a civilian population, and therefore the first 2 counts of the indictment are dismissed.
Mangione has become a Robin Hood-esque hero for many Americans facing crushing healthcare costs. Writings from the 27-year-old harshly condemn insurance companies who deny healthcare coverage, saying their executives had it coming. His supporters gathered outside of the courthouse, wearing green hats in reference to the Nintendo video game character Luigi. Mangione is set to reappear in the state court on December 1st, charged with second-degree murder, among other crimes. If convicted, he could face life in prison. He is also facing a federal case, with the U.S. Justice Department seeking the death penalty.
President Donald Trump said the U.S. military on Monday again targeted a boat allegedly carrying drugs from Venezuela, killing 3 aboard the vessel, and hinted that the military targeting of cartels could be further expanded.
This video, shared by President Trump, shows a boat exploding in flames. It's part of a U.S. operation aimed at stopping cocaine and fentanyl shipments before they reach the United States. Multiple people were killed in the strikes.
What does that mean? That means there's no drugs coming by sea, but they do come by land. And you know what? We're telling the cartels right now, we're going to be stopping them too. When they come by land, we're going to be stopping them the same way we stop the boats.
Critics question whether strikes in international waters are legal or whether they amount to extrajudicial killings. From Caracas, President Nicolas Maduro rejected Washington's actions.
Es una agresión en toda la línea. Es una agresión judicial.
It's not attention, it's a full-on aggression. It's a judicial aggression when they criminalize us, a political aggression with their daily threatening statements, a diplomatic aggression, and an ongoing military-like aggression. Venezuela is empowered by international law to fully confront this aggression.
The US has deployed 8 warships to the southern Caribbean, escalating pressure on Maduro. Washington accuses him of heading a cocaine cartel and has doubled the bounty on his capture to $50 million. Earlier this month, another US strike killed 11 people on a vessel linked to a Venezuelan gang. The standoff shows no signs of easing, raising fears of further escalation in the region.
The United States said Monday it has decertified Colombia as an ally in the fight against drugs, a decision that could cost Bogota hundreds of millions of dollars in U.S. military support.
A punishment for poor results. That's how the US is framing its decision to decertify Colombia as an ally in the war on drugs, overturning almost 30 years of cooperation and jeopardizing hundreds of millions of dollars of US aid to the country. Since 2022, cocoa cultivation has increased by around 70% in Colombia, a jump that the Trump administration blames on the country's left-wing government.
Under President Petro's leadership, coca cultivation and cocaine production have reached record highs, undermining years of mutually beneficial cooperation between our two countries against narco-terrorists.
Colombia's President Gustavo Petro disagrees with US policy, saying the so-called war on drugs has failed. Since coming to power in 2022, Petro has supported efforts to shift the focus onto social problems that fuel drug trafficking, finding peaceful alternatives to cocoa cultivation rather than prosecuting traffickers. The left-wing leader blames US demand for the recent increase in production.
Everything we do really has nothing to do with the Colombian people. It's rather to stop American society from rubbing cocaine on their noses.
The US contributes around $380 million annually for anti-narcotics efforts in Colombia, assistance that could now be withdrawn following the falling out. The move comes as Colombian military and police have been left reeling following a string of deadly attacks from guerrilla groups.
Welcome back on our sports news. The Eswatini Tennis Association has started a process of introducing a junior national team, which will comprise of both boys and girls under the age of 16. According to the Association Secretary General Cyprian Lamini, he says the aim is to have a competitive team by January 2026 to take part in the regional tournament.
The Eswatini Tennis Association has started a program of introducing a national team of under 16 boys and girls, recruiting from clubs from all the 4 regions of the country.
Under 16 Elive, sikhetse badlali from the different regions, Shiselweni, Lubombo, Manzini.
According to the Eswatini Tennis Association Secretary General Cyprian Lamini, he says the preparations are being done at early stages in order for preparations of the regional competitions come January next year.
Zimbabwe or Namibia 2026 January. So she selected a team so that they can start intensive training in preparation for that tournament.
The association is working tirelessly alongside the technical team and the development team of the association. The technical and development team believe that they are ready to help the association get ready for the competition next year. Eswatini Tennis Association is amongst the local sporting codes that prioritize junior programs. That is well witnessed from junior competition such as Eswatini Building Society Junior Tennis Competition. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Babane.
Right, and just like that, that's how we hit the home stretch of the second bulletin of the program. Yeah, this is Kusile. Good morning, and where we bring you and we keep you abreast of what is happening in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Right about now, let's go for a quick break. When we come back, the show continues. This is Kusile. Good morning.
Hi, I'm Alex. Here's a riddle for you. What can you own but never hold? Let me show you. Welcome to cyberspace, home to a lot of the things that we use in our daily lives. Games, videos, and so much of our data. But also, here it is, crypto assets. You've probably heard of a few, maybe Bitcoin, Ether, or others. So what am I driving at here? After the global financial crisis, trust in banks was at an all-time low. Crypto assets were created as an alternative way to make payments, democratizing and decentralizing finance. Basically taking power away from banks and putting it in the hands of the people. The idea was that they were going to fundamentally change the world of finance with their decentralized ledger technology, the blockchain. So, what's the catch? Without backing assets or a central authority, crypto assets seem to be really volatile. That's great if you want to gamble, not so great if you want to pay for something. Because how can you really pay for something with an asset that isn't a stable store of value? Enter the stablecoin. A crypto asset built on the blockchain, but usually with a centralized issuer. While the value of crypto assets like Bitcoin is determined by supply and demand, stablecoins aim to have value by being pegged to another asset in one of two ways. The first is by backing the stablecoin with another asset, like the dollar, the euro, or even a commodity like gold. In theory, keeping a one-to-one parity. But wait a minute, doesn't this go against the founding premise of crypto? Maybe, but it also allows users to stay in the crypto universe without all the volatility. The second way stablecoins try to maintain value is through an algorithm, a formula that automatically raises and lowers the total number of a given asset in response to supply and demand to keep the price at or near par. One danger with stablecoins is market shocks. If prices begin to fall too quickly, or users lose faith in the ability of the stablecoin to keep its desired pace, everyone could try to sell their stablecoins all at once, dropping their value almost overnight. There are a few famous examples of stablecoins that have crashed over the years. Some people lost all their savings after relying on something they believed had a fixed value. So, is this the end of the stablecoin story? We can't really be sure. Some still see the promise. They think that stablecoins have the potential to increase access to financial services and become a viable payment method. But for that to happen, there needs to be regulation to prevent fraud and crashes and to protect users from abuse. Before imposing regulation, authorities will look at how people are actually using stablecoins, whether it's for payments or something else. Some authorities are looking to regulate the bigger stablecoins the way they do banks and other traditional financial institutions. Now, here's the real riddle. If these stablecoins are regulated like banks, don't they end up becoming the banks that crypto assets were meant to replace?
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.sz. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba-researche, bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sente ukukhiqiza lokusembili.
Hi, I'm Alex. Let's talk about banks. Specifically, central banks. Believe it or not, they're really important to our everyday lives. Central banks manage the flow of money in a country's economy, so things don't go haywire. They're typically part of the government, although they should operate independently. The specific roles of central banks vary from country to country, but they usually have a few key responsibilities. Mainly, they're in charge of monetary policy to keep prices stable. One way they do this is through what's called the interest rate, which is the cost of borrowing money. Central banks lower interest rates, making credit cheap to boost the economy. Because when credit to buy things, such as homes, food, and cars gets cheaper, people tend to buy more. And who doesn't love that? But when prices get too high, central banks can raise rates, making money more expensive to borrow. This can slow growth, but it also brings down prices. Central banks also buy and sell foreign currency. They can do this to weaken or support the value of their own currency. stability isn't just about keeping prices steady. That's why central banks also play a key role in preserving financial stability. For example, if a commercial bank is in trouble, a central bank can give them a loan, but only as a last resort. Central banks have been using all of these tools to help keep things stable for hundreds of years. Okay, so why am I telling you this? Well, whether you're buying bread, or a pomegranate, or even starting a business, that stability is important for all of us. And here at the IMF, a big part of our job is providing policy advice that can help central banks all over the world meet their price and financial stability goals.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Welcome back. It's 37 minutes after 7. It's a historic moment for the U.S. Federal Reserve. While Donald Trump isn't the first president to put pressure on the central bank, he is the only one who has tried to fire one of its governors. And while established economic principles provide the Fed with good reason to resist political bullying, it's the markets that actually hold the cards. How they react may determine the fate of the Fed's independence.
President Donald Trump is reshaping the U.S. government from the inside out. And even the Federal Reserve is a target.
Jerome, too late?
Come too late, pal.
I think he's terrible.
Some very strong words coming from the president.
Termination cannot come fast enough.
People can say whatever they want, that's fine.
This is something different, and I worry about it.
The threats to Fed independence that we're seeing right now are real and they're significant.
They're under a white-hot political spotlight right now.
Overall pressure campaign.
The president and I are both concerned about the foundations of the Fed.
With the unprecedented attempt to dismiss a sitting governor,
Lisa Cook sues Trump over move to oust her,
and an economic ally poised to fill another vacancy.
If I'm confirmed to this role, I will act independently.
An institution traditionally sheltered from politics is having to navigate unfamiliar waters.
Names can change, but I think the ultimate point is you're really targeting the independence of the central bank.
Everybody agrees that central bank independence is critical.
Central bank independence, we have to fight for it.
Fed independence is the crucial underpinning of the Fed's credibility as an inflation fighter. If Fed independence is lost, that credibility is shattered.
We're never going to be influenced by any political pressure.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there.
One of the biggest challenges is dealing with uncertainty. A central bank wants to avoid contributing to that uncertainty.
To truly appreciate the gravity of where the U.S. is today, here's a quick history lesson. Back in the 1970s, President Richard Nixon pressured the Fed chair Arthur Burns into cutting interest rates to boost his re-election prospects.
I respect his independence. However, I hope that independently he will conclude that my views are the ones that should be followed.
Burns obliged, but what followed was years of crippling inflation. Burns' successor, Paul Volcker, responded by raising rates dramatically. Although this caused a lot of pain, the inflation dragon was tamed, and it set the economy back on track for growth. Volcker's resolve in the face of political pressure also reestablished the notion that a central bank removed from politics was necessary and beneficial. This autonomy has held ever since.
We will continue to maintain a strong and independent Federal Reserve.
At least until now.
We have a stupid person, frankly, at the Fed. Always too late, a little slow. Yeah, he's not a smart guy.
Judging how aggressive Trump has been can be subjective, but Bloomberg Economics developed a way of keeping track.
What we wanted to do was take it out of the realm of mere impression, my assertion versus somebody else's assertion. We wanted to give it a quantitative grounding.
Headlines were scored for their positive or negative sentiment on Fed independence. Social media posts, if associated with those headlines, were counted as well.
We added those up across months in order to derive a visual impression. Through the first couple of years, President Trump was relatively restrained. When Trump took office for the second time, the intensity picked up right away and has by far set new records. Admittedly, that scoring is inherently somewhat judgmental. Somebody else could perhaps arrive at a somewhat different conclusion quantitatively. But the existence of these headlines is undeniable.
Somebody that I've never been very fond of, actually.
The irony here is it was President Trump, after all, who nominated Jay Powell to be chair of the Federal Reserve.
Jay has the wisdom and leadership to guide our economy.
Trump, back in 2018 and 2019, was kicking off a trade war with China, and his firm conviction was that the Fed needed to play its part. Fast forward to where we are today.
Interest rates have to come down.
We're in an even bigger trade war. Once again, President Trump thinks the Fed needs to get on board with Team USA and deliver outsized rate cuts to juice the economy and give them a better shot of winning in this trade war. All politicians, if they're in power already, would very much like to be in a low interest rate economy with growth booming.
Growth can boom with low interest rates because they inspire businesses to hire and investors to invest. Usually, high interest rates do the opposite. When it's more expensive to borrow, businesses can contract. Managing this delicate balance is why central banks exist and why their independence to make nonpartisan decisions has been so vigorously defended.
The Fed's mandate is surprisingly clear. Congress has instructed the Fed to pursue maximum employment and price stability. It doesn't mean that a central bank that has solid independence is a rogue organization, utterly unaccountable to elective representatives. But there is this buffer away from the political fray. It is about short-sightedness versus long-sightedness. Monetary policy here historically in the United States and in other countries around the globe has been shown time and again to work better when decision makers are allowed to make decisions in the long-term interests of the population.
This dynamic can be clearly seen in Turkey's economic roller coaster.
President Erdogan's motions towards including a lot more politics into monetary policy started back in 2018. He vowed to take a more active role in policymaking and made it very apparent that his preference lies with lower borrowing costs. that culminated into the first removal of the governor back in 2019. That has led to a series of departures from the central bank. We are now on the 6th central bank governor in just over 6 years in Turkey. That policy has led Turkish economy down a quite difficult path, trying to tackle rein-in price pressures by lowering borrowing costs produced the opposite result to what the president was expecting. Inflation exploded to a high of 85%.
This had profound effects on the Turkish population.
Items that we consider necessities, such as food, shelter, housing, utilities, and healthcare, these tend to be quite fast at adapting to high price pressure. It makes it more expensive to be poor, and it divides the wedge between the haves and the have-nots even wider. Fast forward to 2023, after the elections, the president actually did a complete overhaul with the policymakers completely doing a U-turn on those unsound policies.
As the central bank aggressively increased borrowing costs, lo and behold, inflation volatility slowed and has gradually come under control.
But to this day, we still have extremely high inflation. Let's take it with a grain of salt comparing the US economy with a smaller economy like Turkey, but the mechanics are still there.
Turkey's revolving door of central bank governors is a cautionary tale. But US presidents have historically observed legal guardrails to remove Fed decision makers. Trump's attempt to oust Governor Lisa Cook breaks that convention.
Congress in 1935 wrote in a requirement that the president can dismiss members of the Board of Governors for cause. There has to be some serious form of misbehavior.
Our independence is a matter of law.
Just how far President Trump can take his arguments remains to be seen.
The Supreme Court, in ruling on the president's ability to fire the heads of other independent agencies, explicitly created a carve-out for the Fed, suggesting that the legal bar for the president to oust Jerome Powell is fairly high.
But the US Supreme Court, with many of its justices appointed by Trump himself, has often ruled in his favor. Added to this, the firing of the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics rang alarm bells around the integrity of data that inform economic decisions.
There's a tradition to adhere strictly to nonpartisan, professional, objective standards in creating the data. Many of us will be on high alert to be extremely observant about any possibility of manipulation of the data for political purposes.
The stakes here couldn't be higher. Markets risk losing faith that monetary policy decisions will be made apolitically, no matter who works at the Fed.
This is what we call credibility, and that's the thing that is very hard-earned and quite easily spent.
The president, whoever they choose, you're going to have somebody that has credibility with the markets, or you're going to see inflation expectations spike. You will not get lower interest rates. You will get higher interest rates.
Trump could be shooting himself in the foot. A Fed that floods the U.S. economy with cheap money will have to pay more to convince the market to hold U.S. debt. Treasury yields, especially anything past 2 years, will go up. And it's these interest rates that matter most to the economy.
You should stop fixating on what this means for rate cuts. I think, what is this going to do for the longer end of the curve? I think that's what the market's got to start thinking about.
We haven't seen substantial reactions in markets yet, but this could turn very quickly. Frankly, I think we are playing with fire.
With the full effect of Trump's tariffs yet to be felt, the challenge to the Fed's credibility as an inflation fighter has come at a bad time.
The story of the rise of President Trump and the rise of his MAGA base has really been a story about attacks on elite institutions. Now Trump and his team, they're hammering at the Fed's door. There's going to be some pretty serious consequences for the US economy and for the US markets.
Well, Welcome back, Mr. Matle. Solo na hlelo Kusile breakfast show kanzi-ke lebe sinithembise kona nje in our opening intro. We've been trying to connect with the acting Labour Commissioner, Kingdom Mama kasashaya-ke indzaba ye-network lana solo siyasama siyangena. Siyachafata nami ngathi ngiyachafata kuyaphikisa lana. Hayi kugcine kwalile kodwa sidagcina sisamile.
I think lokuhle nje kulokuthi akusiwe mahlala khona. You know, it rarely happens, but when it happens, it's always beyond us. It's always beyond the person that we're trying to connect with. It's always just the network connection itself. But we really do appreciate the efforts from the, you know, the Ministry of Labour for trying to engage with us on this critical and important conversation. It's a conversation that we are still going to pursue. Perhaps we'll try to deploy a team that is going to go Lega Labour, or we'll have them come into our studios if our time allows, and we can have this important conversation. But it's just unfortunate that network had to, you know,
it's beyond our control. But our team on the ground is working very hard to try and make sure Kusile interviews are totally. And right about now, Mr. Matle, let's take a quick break. When we come back, and wrap up what has been an interesting show for you this Wednesday morning.
We're talking about something powerful, invisible, and life-saving. Your blood. It's a gift only you can give. Our expert is Dr. Yuyun Mariyunin Sik, and we're talking about blood donation. Welcome, Yuyun. As a student, I used to donate blood quite regularly and also throughout my work life. What about you?
Of course, I have. And I always tell people that donating blood is easy, safe, and makes a real difference.
But there's something new I learned, that when you donate blood, you could be saving up to 3 lives, right?
Yes, exactly. You're right. Because when you donate blood, your blood will be separated into red blood cell, platelets, and plasma. And each can be given to a different patient. For example, we can give the red blood cell for the anemia patient, and then we can give the platelets to the bleeding patient, and plasma for the infectious patients. All at once.
Wow. And there is an expiry date for the donated blood. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it does. So, for example, the platelets is only last for 5 days, red blood cell for 6 weeks, and plasma, if frozen, it lasts for 1 year. That is why regular donation is very important to keep the blood stock of the blood bank, especially during emergency and outbreak situation.
But it's not just about emergencies, right?
Absolutely. So for cancer treatment and surgeries, and also for treatment of severe anemia and mother who has a complication during childbirth, none of these are possible without safe blood.
So now let's talk about how to donate blood. It's important that it's voluntary, right?
Voluntary unpaid donation are safer because this donor usually more honest about their health, and it avoid exploiting vulnerable people who might feel pressure to sell blood. And the voluntary blood donation systems in general are more reliable over the long term.
So, Yuyun, when I was in university, I had a classmate who had hemophilia and he needed regular blood donation. I think he needed blood plasma. And I'm talking about a few decades back when maybe the blood systems weren't that safe. Unfortunately, he contracted HIV with infected blood. So talk to us about national blood donation systems. What does it take to keep it safe?
So the key is that the country need to have a strong national blood system. That means that each unit of blood should be tested and then should be processed, and of course storage and distribution according to the standard.
Yuyun, I remember I was in Sri Lanka many years ago, and they have a beautiful tradition of donating blood on full moon nights. And this donation happens in communities, universities, temples. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, that is a wonderful tradition. And for those wondering, actually you can donate blood more than once. So for example, if you want to donate red blood cell, you can donate every 8 to 12 weeks. And if you want to donate platelet or plasma, you can donate every 2 to 4 weeks.
Let's talk about who can donate blood.
Almost all can donate blood from 18 to 65 years old and having minimum 50 kilogram of body weight. And before donating blood, you will get a quick health check, so nothing scary.
Okay, and it doesn't take very long, right? Just 10 minutes.
Yes, of course, just 10 minutes to get blood to be drawn. And then to complete collecting the blood, it takes 35 to 30 minutes to 40 minutes, including refreshment.
Okay, that's like your lunch break. You can go donate blood if you're eligible during your lunch break. Take a friend with you, get an appointment, and please donate blood. That was Science in 5 today. Thank you, Yuyun.
Thank you.
Until next time, then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Right, welcome back. You are still tuned into Eswatini television. Kusile, a breakfast show where we keep you abreast with the news, making headlines, even la Eswatini and even abroad, and also significant topic la and your mindset will change in terms of thinking ganjani.
Yeah, you know, itolo kuphume consumer price index report, and it just had some really interesting insights. In fact, we did have a conversation with an economist on our sister show, Market View Itolo, from 2 p.m. So people can go rewatch that interview, but it has some really important salient points. Consumer price index, it really does speak to you as a consumer, as Leswati. It's a conversation that you want to go and look at, but also you do want to read the consumer price index report yourself and just try to, you know, update yourself on what is really happening. We are expecting another report that is going to speak directly to our GDP, which will now drill into more nuances as to how did they get to the conclusion of some of the conclusions that are articulated within the consumer price index. At least that one then really does inform us with the implications of how it affects you as a consumer and the economic implications therein, as well as how we continue to benchmark when we look at our interest rates as the kingdom of Eswatini. Right now, we are advised which we may want to make some cuts, but perhaps we do want to wait a little as we continue to...
Right, and speaking of economy, making headlines today, Times of Eswatini, the GDP is up by 3%, which is, I think, Saneles Bia, the economist, would help us break down that one and what it means for the Kingdom of Eswatini. We'll see the GDP is up by 3%.
Yeah, that's a conversation that we'll surely explore. So they should stay tuned for our sister show again.
Yes,
Market
yes,
View.
yes,
It really
true.
does drill into more of these business developments and the nuances therein. And we always have people who are qualified, who have educated opinions on such matters. Otherwise, this has been Kusile Breakfast Show, the Wednesday edition. They should, Eswatini, watch other programs brought to you by Eswatini TV. We always promise to deliver some of the most entertaining, some of the most informative and educational programs in the country.
Right about it. We've hit the home stretch actually. It's a minute before we touch 8, so it brings us to the conclusion of what has been an interesting show since 6 a.m. Right about now it's 8 a.m. So we've been pushing, Sfiso, and we did to our best. We pushed, and then till we meet again tomorrow. I think right about now it's time for us to say bye bye.